Hello and welcome to Beautifully Balanced. Health and happiness aren't found in a bottle of prescription pills or with any fad diet. Instead, we can activate your body's natural ability to heal itself. And that is exactly what we're going to do together here. I'm Sarah Teeple, a women's integrative health practitioner, and I blend the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda with the modern science of functional medicine to help you heal your gut, rebalance your hormones, and calm anxiety naturally. Here I'll teach you the smart, sustainable, personalized, and fun way to use nutrition, herbs, and healthy lifestyle to feel vibrant, energized, and beautiful inside and out. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to Beautifully Balanced. So our last episode was all about an introduction to treating the root causes of disease and not just band-aiding your symptoms. So this is a two-parter. Welcome to part 2. If you haven't heard part 1, I'd recommend going back and listening. And that episode, as well as this one, are shows that would be great to possibly have a notebook around so you can jot down anything that resonates with you. And so you can jot down any root causes that you are experiencing. This is the first step in you really understanding your body on a deeper level and empowering yourself around your health. So we're going into each of these root causes, going into some of the symptoms that you might be experiencing that are going to tell you if you're experiencing that root cause. And in our first episode on root causes, we talked about stress hormone overdrive, stress hormone exhaustion. Is anyone raising their hand here? And yes, I have some stress hormone issues. We also talked about thyroid issues, so common, mental and emotional stress, and gut disruption. So we're doing this so that you can start to decode your own root causes. Now, we finished off the last show discussing one of the main root causes of all conditions, and that is gut disruption. Now, that doesn't mean if you are experiencing a condition or a disease that you're always going to have gut dysbiosis or gut issues, but it is very, very common. And we're hearing a lot about this in just our mainstream kind of wellness culture, right? We almost talk about it here in the West as though we just discovered the microbiome, when in fact, Ayurveda has been talking about the microbiome for over 5,000 years. They just call it your Agni, or your digestive fire. But to do a short recap, just to catch you up to speed on the symptoms of gut disruption. So you might be experiencing gut disruption if you have symptoms like heartburn or GERD, if you've developed food sensitivities, if all of a sudden your list of no-no foods, that don't make you feel well, if that list is just ever growing, if you have gas and bloating, if you're constipated, then you're definitely showing signs of gut disruption. And we will want to treat that gut disruption directly in order to rebalance your body. So not just take omeprazole, an acid inhibitor, or not just pop a laxative, but we want to start off treating this gut disruption naturally. And there are lots of great ways to do that. I actually recommend doing nutritional interventions and even eating probiotic-rich foods before you go out and spend $60 on an expensive probiotic. Also, definitely trying nutritional interventions and aids before you would buy some fancy powders that contain both probiotics and prebiotics. You might have been hearing a lot about prebiotics lately, and they are naturally occurring fibers that exist in vegetables and legumes and different foods. And they are actually the yummy foods that your probiotics feed upon. So prebiotics can help you produce more beneficial good gut bacteria. But the issue with these powders that have both prebiotics and probiotics, or even with any prebiotic fiber ingredients in foods, these are things like inulin or chicory root fiber. They're often used to sweeten, quote, health foods. But the issue with those is that those prebiotic fibers can feed both good and bad gut bacteria. So if you've got a lot of bloating, if you've got IBS, if you've got food sensitivities, or if you've got a condition called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is actually surprisingly common, those prebiotic fibers can worsen things and bloat you, constipate you, make your IBS even worse. So, this is where working with a practitioner, a knowledgeable practitioner, really helps. But what we want to get to the bottom of when we're talking about gut imbalances, we want to remove any problem foods for you. So, do you have any food sensitivities? Some of the most common ones are gluten and dairy. I would say closely followed by soy and certain nuts. But gluten and dairy are the two biggies. We also want to look at your eating schedule. Are you eating 3 meals a day around the same time every day? Are you eating some more home cooked, nourishing foods? Or are you eating lots of prepared, processed, heavily refined processed foods that contain lots of chemical ingredients that can be worsening your gut issues? So, a lot to look at with gut dysfunction there. Number 6 on our root causes list is nutrient gaps and food triggers. Often in our culture, we have no shortage of food around us. I think we can all agree on that, at least in the culture in the United States. We are overfed and undernourished. So there are all kinds of food options: fast food, junk food, food at gas stations, food everywhere. But often it is not of the highest nutritional quality. So we can be eating too much, but it can be nutritionally void. So, lots of vitamin and mineral deficiencies we see in clients. And those things really need to be addressed before you want to do a stronger prescription medication for any condition. We need to know, is your body getting what it needs day to day, meal to meal, to give you energy, to just make all of your organ systems and everything work the way it needs to work? So, some symptoms and signs of phytonutrient gaps are things like grinding your teeth, getting migraine headaches, having restless leg syndrome, being vegetarian or vegan and not supplementing with vitamin D or vitamin B. So, the first ones that I mentioned, the ones that are tension related, are signs and symptoms of a magnesium deficiency, which are really, really common. If you've got symptoms like dry skin and dry hair, or unhealthy skin and nails, or lots of inflammation in your system, that could be a sign of an omega-3 fatty acid deficiency. So, again, we want to get to the bottom of these things. We want to be a phytonutrient detective here, and that's exactly what we can do. And then, of course, we can plug up those nutrient gaps with some smart supplementation, and we want to make sure we're getting the right kinds of supplements. And then we can also, of course, do that with really great nutrition. Another aspect of our root cause, number 6, the phytonutrient gaps and also food triggers. We need to make sure that you're not regularly consuming any foods to which you have a sensitivity or an allergy. Now, true food allergies are much less common, but food sensitivities are relatively super common, actually. Um, and those kind of show up as part of the puzzle of the microbiome issues. So, are you regularly eating something that is causing and contributing to your gut dysbiosis? Again, super common culprits are gluten and dairy, but then also there are some stealth culprits in lots of different processed and packaged foods. There are all kinds of different chemical additives, and often those additives are contributing to gut imbalances, or they can also be contributing to histamine overload. So, if you're getting hives, getting redness in your skin, sneezing, coughing, postnasal drip, sometimes you're consuming foods that are really increasing your histamine load and you might not know it. So, really important to understand those things. All right, number 7 on our root causes list is blood sugar imbalances. So, when we think of blood sugar, we think of diabetes. And of course, that's a huge aspect of diabetes, type 2 and type 1 diabetes. But Blood sugar imbalances also contribute to stress hormone issues and overproduction of cortisol, and they pretty much drive many different conditions, from autoimmune conditions to weight gain to hormonal conditions to mood disorders. Blood sugar imbalances are a hugely common underlying cause. Not to mention that, I'm not sure the exact statistic right now of how many Americans have type 2 diabetes, but far, far more are pre-diabetic or have metabolic syndrome, which is basically where your blood sugar is just chronically not balanced and out of control. And so some symptoms or things that might cause you to have blood sugar imbalance, things like regularly skipping meals, craving carbs and sweets, feeling like you always need a little sugar or carbohydrate pick me up. Things like finding yourself just famished and kind of hangry, if you will, before you even realize that you got hungry. It's like you can go from fine to starving and hangry and irritable. If you have PCOS or if you're overweight, especially around your middle, if you get frequent yeast infections, if you get really irritable, if you have hypoglycemia, these are all signs that you've got imbalanced blood sugar. And of course, the number one way to address that is with regularly timed meals that have adequate amounts of protein and fat. And of course, we want to choose our best sources, most healthy sources of protein and fat. So if you're doing animal protein, you always want to buy organic or local if you can. And as far as healthy fats, we're going for things like avocado, nuts and seeds, extra virgin olive oil over your hydrogenated fats and packaged foods. All right. Number 8 in our list of root causes is toxic overload or environmental toxins. So in our modern culture, we are exposed to over 800,000 different chemicals just on a day-to-day basis. These are things that our grandparents were never exposed to, things that used to not even exist in our world. And we are now exposed to them all day, every day. Things from car exhaust to chemicals in plastics to, quote, fragrance, which is an ingredient in many different of our personal care products and laundry detergents, cleaning products, but that can be kind of a little stealth name for really, really harmful chemicals that can disrupt our endocrine systems and just add to our overall toxic load. So some common symptoms of environmental toxic overload is having allergies and sensitivities, getting regular frequent headaches, having trouble with memory or focus, having less than one bowel movement a day, having breast tenderness or lumps regularly, having severe PMS. These are all symptoms that we need to look at our products that we're using. We need to look at our environment. If you've got an autoimmune condition, you really want to look at your environmental toxins and your overall toxic load. At its heart, a big driver of autoimmunity is kind of this core concept of our body not being able to detox the bad stuff in order to let the good stuff, the nourishment, in. So the more clean and refined and just natural you can get your home environment and your foods, the better your body is going to be able to detoxify itself on a day-to-day basis, and the less severe your autoimmune symptoms are going to be. So likewise, if you've got hormonal issues, often things like chemicals in plastics, phthalates and parabens and PFAS, all these different chemicals that are in our products and in plastics, really act as endocrine or hormone disruptors. So if you've got hormonal issues, PCOS, severe PMS symptoms, you're having a really rough perimenopause or menopause, we want to look at the environmental toxins and possible toxic overload. Likewise, if you're obese, Many of these chemicals are known as obesogens to scientists. So you can imagine that what they're doing is making your body hold on to all this excess fat, because this fat is basically sequestering your toxic overload. Your body doesn't want to let that go and let all those toxins into your bloodstream at once, because your body might not be able to handle that. So being obese might actually be your body's way of protecting you from all the environmental toxins that you're taking in on a day-to-day basis. This is, staggering and depressing, but it's true, and it's something we need to acknowledge. And luckily, there's so much that we can do about this. So I want to share this information with you to empower you. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Number 9 on our root causes list are stealth infections. So these are things like Epstein-Barr virus, H. pylori, Lyme's disease. The most common stealth infection that I see that is an underlying cause of most people's IBS or digestive issues is something called SIBO. And that's an acronym. It stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And SIBO is basically a manifestation of really severe gut dysbiosis. So we talked a little bit about that balance of good and bad gut bacteria. Well, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, happens when your small intestine just has a proliferation of that bad gut bacteria and not enough good bacteria. And you'll see things like excessive bloating, extreme bloating, very painful bloating. You'll see either bowel urgency, like urgent diarrhea, or sometimes constipation, depending on what type of SIBO you have. There are 2 different kinds. Some other signs of stealth infections could be feeling exhausted all the time, your muscles feeling heavy and tired, having chronically swollen lymph nodes or glands, getting cold sores often, being bitten by a tick and not having been properly treated. So these are all signs or symptoms that you could have a stealth infection. And of course, if we had a stealth infection, we would want to uncover that, know about it, and treat it head on. So I hope today you have learned some and found some value in understanding each of these 9 root causes, some or many of which you may be experiencing right now. I know that for so many of my clients, and even for me myself in my holistic health journey, I had several of these root causes that I needed to uncover and truly understand in order to know how to treat them naturally for true, lasting healing. Now, if this idea of treating your root causes really resonates with you, if it makes sense on a deep level, then congratulations, you're on a great track. And get excited, because we will record future episodes about each one of these root causes, really going into detail about the symptoms you might be experiencing, as well as how you can treat them holistically and naturally at home with teas, with nutrition, with herbs and supplements, with healthy lifestyle. So definitely stay tuned for that. Thank you for being here with me today. Remember, you can feel your best naturally. Just try one new thing a week that you learn here and watch your body and life transform. And if you're ready to take this to the next level, learn your dosha, get your personalized holistic plan, and live beautifully balanced, you've got to come see me at sarahteeple.com. That's SARAHTEEPLE.com. There you can learn about how to work with me one-on-one or book a free holistic chat and just tell me what you're working on. I love to hear from you and help you live your best life. So until next time, be well. Oh, and if you love this conversation, please rate and review our podcast. That really helps more people find natural healthcare options. Thanks again, and see you soon.